Morning. So towards the middle of Parshas Pinchas, it says Tzavas b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleim, command the Jews v'amarta aleim, and speak to them. Again. So why do we say twice v'amarta? Say. It sure is just said keep on going. Just like when someone's talking, you keep on talking and talking and talking. You don't say, and he said this, and he said this, and he said this. You just say one v'amarta. So it's explained in Chassidus that the first amarta speaks about the machshava, the thought in bringing a carbon. What thoughts are you thinking when you bring the carbon? The speech of the carbon. And then the second one is the gashmius of the carbon. The gashmius, the actual carbon being sacrificed. We know that nowadays we don't have the karbanis because we don't have the temple. You know, it's the 5 things that happened on the 17th of Tammuz. And Be'ez Hashem, we won't have to fast for the destruction of the temple, but we'll be able to rejoice as we know that Mashiach was born on Tisha B'Av. And since it falls out on Shabbos, that we shouldn't have to come on to this fact that it falls out on Shabbos. That we have all the positive things on Shabbos. But let's have the positive Shabbos today, which is stated about the coming of Mashiach and the days of Mashiach. That the whole world, the whole week will be Shabbos. Just like on Shabbos the whole world gets elevated, so too the whole week will be elevated. We wouldn't need to come on to Shabbos to get elevated. Sure, there are things that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Those are mitzvahs lo yisaseh. But we'll be bringing the karbanis on Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash. For sure, a carbon teida, a carbon of thanks to God, that we were redeemed from this exile. An exile which we saw no end to it. And now we have seen an end to it, and we bring a carbon teida for it. So let's get back to what we're talking about. So we don't have karbanis now. What do we have instead? We have tefillah, davening. When we daven, it's just like the karban tamid. You daven shachris, daven mincha. And ma'ariv is only a rishus. It's not a mitzvah. But towards the end, the rishus is much higher. But let's not get into it. But we have the karbanis, the tefillah is in place of karbanis. In general, what do mitzvahs do? So all mitzvahs always have a machshava and a dibur and ma'aseh, thought, speech, and action. Even every action has a thought, speech. Every speech has thought and speech in it, and thought and action. And the same thing is with machshava. So in general, mitzvahs and karbanis, we see the fact that it says, I said and it was done and my will was accomplished. And therefore I have nachas ruach, I have pleasure from the Jewish people's work. And that is with all mitzvahs also. But all mitzvahs we have the action of it too. Karbanis we don't have the action. But every mitzvah we do, we draw down God. And He has pleasure from us doing mitzvahs. It makes a dwelling place for God in this world. But one thing we don't see godliness in this world. Sure, my arm put on tefillin. My head had the tefillin on it. I did give charity. I walked to shul. I learned Torah. Sure, we have that Rab Meir in the time the Gemara said that he found a new Chiddush in Torah, his face lit up. So you have that shine on the face that when you learn Torah, when you find a new development in Torah. So, but in general, we don't see the godliness, we don't see the connection. We don't see the cause and effect of the mitzvah. But whatever comes low down, that's where God's essence is. The lower you go, the more of the essence of God is revealed there. Up above, there's no essence. Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira even. And go higher and higher, there's no world. There's no essence of God. It's brought down in Chassidus that the lower you go, the less of a you get. But down here is the essence of God. And therefore when we use out these physical things, even though you don't see the effect of it. But when we slaughter an animal to eat, it makes the animal kosher, befitting. Before it was not befitting to go on a table. Now that it's slaughtered according to Torah, it is befitting to stay on the table. Come to the table. And then we make a bracha on it. And then we thank God after we eat the steak. That elevates the steak. That elevates the animal. And as we know, shchita, slaughtering, is the most humane way of killing an animal. So all things, we don't see the actual thing. We don't see the actual hand changing. We don't see the hand that the head that learns Torah changing. We don't see godliness penetrating our body, or shooting out from our body. Godliness. We're flesh and bones. The only thing that actually brought down godliness was the korban. When you brought the carbon on the mizbeach, you lit the fire, and that fire came from above to consume the animal. You saw the fire from above. Okay. So we know exactly what's going on over here. That if you come down to the lowest level, you draw essence, the essence of God. Why don't we have the karbanis now? Why don't we have karbanis now? All other mitzvahs, we don't see the direct action, direct pleasure of God. But by karbanis we do see. So if so, why don't we have the karbanis now? So the thing is, the world is not ready for it. The world cannot handle it. The world is so low that it cannot handle the light from above. Sure, there are times that we see God's blessing. But we don't see God Himself because we cannot handle it. That's why the karbanos are brought in the Beis HaMikdash. Before the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim was built, you can have a mizbeach in your backyard. Once the Beis HaMikdash was built, you are not allowed to bring a carbon anywhere besides in the Beis HaMikdash. In Yerushalayim. Because God chose Yerushalayim to be the place where the Beis HaMikdash should be built. And since this world is a concealment on godliness, even though we got the essence of God, because we're low down in Golus, and it's a blessing that we're low down in Golus, because we are in Ikvisa, the Mashiach. That means we're below the heel of a person. We're below the heel of the world. Over there is drawn down the essence of God. And that's why we have tefillah in the place of karbanis. And as it says when you daven, it's as if you bring a karban. We give ourselves up to God. We have an animal soul, we elevate it to God. And whoever occupies and learns the Torah of Olah, the laws of a carbon Olah, it's as if he brought a carbon Olah. So we have it in Machshava because you're learning. Dibur, we have it in Dibur, but not the Maisa. But when you learn the carbon Olah, when you say it, it's as if you're bringing it. A carbon Olah, v'naseh ritzoini, and was done God's will. The Eibusha should help that through our karbanis and tefillah, which tefillah is always heard, we should draw down godliness into the world, the ultimate coming of Mashiach. Because when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you're drawing, the whole intention of that is to draw down godliness into your words. And Be'ez Hashem will have this galus to the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, take it from Yad Mamash now. Long live our master, teacher, and Rebbe, King Mashiach, forever and ever.